questions for the opposition bench. And the first one is this. First of all, to the opening opposition. They tell us that the state works with, with their paradigm because it's what society is used to at the end of the day. Now the thing is, what Jack already presented to you in a new analysis is this. It is society who paints a problematic picture. The problem is that mindset, Mr. Chair. The thing is, it's society who creates these walls between each other, and it's society who creates these gender roles at the end of the day. To put it very bluntly for you, Mr. Chair, so gender roles are imaginary and they're nothing but a limit to your self-actualization, as Jack has already reinforced you. But on the second level, of the second rebuttal coming from the government whip. First of all, let's respond to the opposition, to the closing opposition. They tell us that, the state doing this will add fat to the fire, that conservative parents are provoked to stick to their values. But the thing is, Mr. Chair, the power or, the influence of the state is more tangible than the community work that Henry wants at the end of the day. Because the thing is, what we want to clarify before anything else, we're not telling or dictating to these people not to be conservative. We're not telling them, stop sticking to your principles and stuff like that. We're just telling them to accept the people who are liberal. We're just telling them to accept people who are conservative. And we do that via the medium of school and education. Which leads me to my third rebuttal, which is this. That the community organic change thing that Henry mentioned earlier is not feasible at all. Because the thing is, the government says, if they say that the state will be met by criticism from conservatives and stuff like that, what more if the community alone does it? Because they're just a community at the end of the day. The state has more power and the state has a responsibility to answer to those needs. But on the last rebuttal coming from the government whip, it's this. What exactly, I'd like to pose a question to Sanjeev for Sanjeev to answer. What exactly are these tangible buckets of changes or alternative routes at the end of the day? Because when you're an acne-filled, teen, angsty-fueled teenager, you don't think of alternative routes, Mr. Chair. That's why people are starting suicide or things like that, as already mentioned to you earlier. Moreover, we think that the government needs to be consistent. But let's go on to the main... later, Henry, I have so much to say. But let's go on to the main issues coming from... the government whip. I have two for you today. First of all, I'd like to talk to you about on whose paradigm do we better forward gender equality and no discrimination. And second of all, I want to talk to you about on which paradigm do we better forward the true value and the true essence of education at the end of the day. Now let's take Henry's example. That episode of Glee with, where Kurt, the gay guy, was voted prom queen. Yeah, he was voted prom queen. But in that same episode, he was openly ridiculed. That's why he was voted prom queen at the end of the day. And he was stripped of his right to no discrimination. And he was stripped of his right to an awesome prom at the end of the day. Sit down later, Henry. But the thing is, Mr. Chair, if government's policy or if government's model is followed, then Kurt will not have been openly embarrassed because the school supports, his being gayness, not his gayness. Now the thing is, Madam Chair, he would have had a great prom. People would not have ridiculed him openly in front of everybody else at the end of the day. Now the thing is, the thing with gender roles is that they are the root cause of discrimination at the end of the day, as Jack has already told you earlier. Now the thing is, if you diagnose what the problem is, it's discrimination. Moreover, what the root of discrimination is gender roles, because gender roles make this impression that girls should do this, guys should do that, girls should dress like this, guys should dress like that, and other things like that. And because gender roles have been prevalent since the dawn of time, that has been the root of discrimination at that. Now the thing is that the root of discrimination is imaginary, as Jack has already told you earlier. The thing with the government's paradigm is that we reshape that entire mindset in not just one arena, but everywhere. And because education is the bridge to everywhere, as Jack has already clarified too, and that's the beauty of the entire proposal coming from the government at that. But let's go on to my second main issue, which is the bulk of the extension of the closing government, which is on which paradigm do we better forward the true value and the true essence of the education. Please sit down, Henry. I still have so much to say. The thing is, in terms of education, what exactly is the goal of education, if anybody can tell me? Now the thing is, sit down please, the thing is the goal of education, Mr. Chair, and listen to this, Henry, is that it equips students with the necessary influence and information for them to have better careers, to harness their potential. In one word, the goal of education, members of this most august house, is self-actualization for its students, whatever that form of self-actualization may be, as Jack has already clarified to you earlier. Now the thing is, the reason why we target primary and secondary schools at that is because these children are in their formative years. The thing is, the things they learn now and at this particular stage will influence how they think and how they act for the rest of their lives. Now the thing is, Madam Chair, that's the relevance of it, because every individual has a right to self-actualization at the end of the day. And anything that hampers your process to self-actualization, in this case, gender roles, then the school is obligated to get rid of that thing that's hampering you from your self-actualization at the end of the day. Now the question here is that whether or not they really are deterring your self-actualization. And they do, because they're a label, they're a stereotype. They stop you from doing what you want to do. They make you ridiculed at the end of the day. So it's only sensible that educational institutions step in. It's not just, the state's job, it's also educational institutions' jobs themselves. Because as Jack has already presented to you earlier, yes, we do agree that the state has a job to do it, but education does as well. Because we cater to these individuals' rights to self-actualization. The thing is, education is the only medium to get that message across. Because the beauty of education is that, Gian already mentioned to you earlier that it's a bridge to say your household or stuff like that. But Jack also mentioned to you that it's also a bridge to other places like politics, like social work, like the academe. Wherever you're going after you're being schooled is where you're bringing what you've learned in school at the end of the day. Now the thing is, school education ought to be that medium to get that message across. Because first of all, everyone is subject to education at the end of the day. It's influential because it's targeted toward your formative years. Second, and we think also that they're the bridges between everyone and everything else, their futures and all those other sectors of society, which Jack has already pinpointed to you earlier. So it needs to be targeted, or to answer the very main grassroots of the problem, we have to do that at the bridge, which is education, which is your formative years at the end of the day. So that when they leave and go to, say, politics or social work or the academe or the home, they bring that acceptance of other people's, being liberal, of other people's points of views with them, and they don't do that on the opposition's paradigm. I think that we need to give Kurt and everybody else a right to have a great prom. Thank you.